Right, thank you so much, Nirja. So, after COVID-19, well, let me make a disclaimer first. I am not a fortune teller or a soothsayer. I don't raise crystal balls. This is not about that. What I'm going to be talking about is the impact of COVID-19 on society as such, based on a channeling that I received from a certain Guru Pranachandra in November and December 2019. And that was about, what he spoke about was about changing the way we live through small changes in habits of individuals, which results in a change of consciousness. And the crazy part is, while I was editing this book in Jan and Feb, we started with the COVID crisis. And I found that what society was being urged to do was exactly that: change habits, hygiene habits, transport habits, greeting habits, all of that. And a lot of that was the kind of habits that Guru Pranachandra talked about. And so, since he did talk post-COVID, post-renewal, he calls it renewal. So, post-renewal of human consciousness, I think I have some substance to share with you here. So hang in tight. What we're going to talk about is what is COVID, so that we come on the same page in this matter. It's important that we understand the reframe in this context and be aligned with that, so that we understand the aftermath as well. Because, there are a lot of diseases. You have pneumonia, and you have a lot of people. In fact, the WAGs have said that more people die of traffic accidents than of COVID. And so by keeping the traffic off the road, we're actually saving more people. But it's not that funny. The fact is that this is like a war. There is an aftermath. And this is actually a recreation of stuff like Independence Day or Contagion or movies like that, which we thought were in the realm of science fiction but have come right into our living rooms. In spite of that, unlike a war where there are no gainers, here there will be gainers. And we need to understand who that might be. And where, importantly, would you be to be on the side that gains? So that's the kind of backdrop for the next 15-20 minutes. I've chosen this graphic here because I really love the energy of those meetings that we've been having. And now that we're having it online for the first time, I'd like you to follow a protocol where you type C in the chat box every time you feel like clapping. So it's a soundless kind of clap, and an exclamation mark wherever you have an aha moment. So it keeps the energy going, at least in the chat box, and that's so very important. All right. Oops. COVID was a correction. COVID is a way of us to realize that society and the way we have been moving needs correction. It is for us to understand that what we were doing was not sustainable, even though we had some great minds behind it, some great innovation behind it, some great technology and billions of dollars behind it. What we have seen in a short 4 to 6 weeks is that by stopping to do what we had become habituated to do, we have cleaned up the air, we have cleaned up the water, the dolphins are back. There was a peacock in my multi-story apartment, for heaven's sake. So obviously something was not right. And what was that correction? That is what COVID is really about. It is a time to introspect. It's an opportunity to introspect and reshape the way we live our world and the habits that we live with and the practices and the systems we follow, because we know suddenly, abruptly, the impact that they were having on destabilizing our own existence. Another thing, COVID was a dress rehearsal. You see, what Guru Pranachandra said was that the human species is working towards a time where we are going to be self-annihilating ourselves. the way that we are inventing technology and automation and artificial intelligence, which is getting the power to kind of run things for us, it will not be long before, unless we develop higher consciousness, it will not be long before we lose the plot. And in that case, those movies that are being made are going to come true. It is going to be a catastrophe of the order that we are not prepared for. COVID is preparing us for that. COVID is teaching us how governments must function, how people must sense urgency of empowerment, how cross-border relationships must be looked at in the case of an emergency. And if this did not happen with, I'm not saying it could be, there are conspiracy theories that even the coronavirus could have been a technology, but I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, even if it is or it isn't, it is a dress rehearsal for a time when it is. If you have set an alarm on your mobile phone, you know how easy it is to set something into a machine and forget about it. And that machine will operate without conscience or consciousness and operate the trigger. When and why that trigger gets operated, we don't know. But we are working on the path. This could be inevitable in a couple of generations. There are human habits that raise consciousness that could be an antidote to these things, because when we develop technology, that aspect could come in. But having said that, what's going to happen? What is the aftermath? Now, this is a rubber band. And if you think that, after this crisis, like this has stretched us. A lot of us are stressed. A lot of our ways of being are challenged. So both individuals and corporations and ecosystems. When a rubber band is stretched, if you feel it comes back to its original place, I'd like you to type O in the chat box. But if you think that it comes back a little elongated, a little longer, type L. So let's just see how many O's and L's we have over here. And I would imagine my vote goes for the L. Every time you stretch a rubber band, it comes back a little longer and it becomes a little slower. That could pretty much happen to businesses. So, like the financial sectors have not seen a thing like this before. None of the 2007-8 crisis or even the 1929 crisis were anything like this. But in this case, even though the markets have crashed and economies have gone for a toss, there will be a natural recovery. The difference being that it will be different in different sectors. The big sectors are going to come back because they form the backbone of the economy. But then there is this chewing gum. This, when you stretch it, it breaks. Of course, the rubber band could break, but that's human extinction. So we're not taking that eventuality. But this is where it never comes back to its original shape. And when it never comes back to its original shape, that is what happens to small businesses, to entrepreneurs who are operating parts of networks, to daily wage earners or weekly earners who are based on agricultural incomes and stuff like that. This thing has broken the backbone of a lot of them. And it is the sensitivity of the people who are running those large rubber band type of corporations and organizations that needs to, we have to implore upon their sensitivity to develop for the rest of the people to survive. I'm talking about Uber drivers, for instance. It is for Uber to do something about that. So that's the angle with which I'm looking at. Now, interestingly, there was this Decode EFC research, which many of you might have seen, which also talks about potential losers and potential winners. And it's quite obvious, actually. You don't need a lot of research to know that tourism is not regaining its rubber band for a while, and aviation, automotives, stuff like that, oil, transport, But these things are the ones that will come back, and possibly some of them may completely lose their shape, but like for instance automotives, with telecommuting, that industry could be affected a lot. So that's what we have to see. My purpose is not to go into these things which you will find on the net anyway, if you look at the Decode EFC site, the analysis. My purpose is to draw your attention to the circles on the left and notice how all of them are outside of us. Financial services, education. In fact, for the last 200-300 years, the focus of humanity has been very strongly on the outside. From the printing press to the car to the plane, everything has been about doing things faster and faster to reach further and further out. Today I am able to reach out to you who could be across continents, and that's where billions and billions of dollars have gone in the past. But the stuff on the right, the potential winners side, has a lot to do with the inside. It has to do with our health, it has to do with what we eat, it's got to do with how we communicate, it's got to do with how we interact. So Zoom is a kind of interaction which is kind of on the right side. And that's where I replay my thought of the outer world and how we've been looking at movies and what they've been telling us, Independence Day and stuff like that. We are actually living the movie now, and we're kind of gearing up for submission, peace. It's either somebody from outer space who's coming in, or a technology robot that's coming in, and we are going to be at their mercy. Why? Because we are completely outwardly focused, and that's where we see the potential losers. I would urge you to start looking at how to be inwardly focused, because that's where the gainers are. And while I'm an inner power coach, as Nija said, I work with energy. Every one of us has that energy, and we have that, some aha moments. That's great. Let's have some exclamation marks there. We all have the ability to look inwards and to fortify. So what I said a little while ago, that our role is to get the industry, whichever industry we're consulting in, speaking for or training or whatever we're doing, to get them to start looking at spending less on their marketing and more on their people, to facilitate systems that are strengthening the insides, that are making operational processes more conducive to work-life balance, which we have learnt does not shut down companies. So it's good. These are the learnings which people like you, who are in a state of influence, who are in a position where your clients listen to you, you're the ones who've got to be telling your clients that we've learned it, we've seen it, and we've also had a dress rehearsal of how we are to react to it. And if we react with the inward focus, even though we may be in travel and tourism, we may strengthen ourselves for the comeback, because people then look upon us as a safe travel and tourism advisor. Our people are having that kind of energy to interact with clients. In spite of a lockdown, they know how to empathize with clients. And that's just one industry I'm giving you an example of, because I'm part of that industry as well. And there is a great feel good that your client has created during and post COVID. That is a process which strengthens in any industry by making it focused on the inner side, and by making it focused on people, on what we eat, how we communicate, what we look at in terms of our health and stuff like that. The change of habits causing the change of consciousness is the process of renewal. That's the name of the book. And this renewal is what is coming about in our society today. It is really nice that we are able to see it, and then we are going to be able to develop the building blocks to make it happen in spite of no crisis facing us. The crisis has taught us that this is what's important, and before we regress to our old habits and old ways of being, which did not serve us or the planet, we can look at how to adopt habits that would make sure that the renewal is sustainable. The book that I've written, or Guru Pranat Chandra has channeled through me. He's not a living form, he's an energy form. That's I'm done with the editing. In fact, I stopped it because I think that by the time Amazon starts delivering again, it's got to be on Amazon's repertoire. I will share the link with you guys, and I would earnestly request you to pick up a copy, read it, implement it, recommend it, because that's 30 habits that raise personal consciousness, and the byline is your unexpected role in saving the planet. So with that, I thank you all for this time. It's wonderful that you guys have made time and you have been so involved with this session.